Hello. Hi. Welcome. This is a book video. Here's the books I'm reading. They'll also be in the description just in case you don't want any spoilers and the thumbnail, right? Who was that? Angela, who is that? That's not the thumbnail. There we go. That's me. That's my personality shining through my glorious that face. Perfect. So I honestly, I feel like I'm having such a dog shit reading here. I've only read like 20 books, and it's June practically. It's practically June. We're halfway through. That's that's probably that. Like I think I'm on track to have like my lowest. Not, I mean, 20 books is so many books, right? I know that my expectations for myself as like a reader, as like someone who reads all the time, I think I should be reading more, but like it hasn't been hitting this year. I don't know. Like, when you get sad and your hobbies feel bad. That's where I'm at. I just feel like I haven't hit on like a really good book since like January, right? When did I read the Anti-Memetics Division? I really liked that. I haven't hit on like a fun, exciting, like stick in your brain book since. In my quest to find physical media, don't let me accidentally show my address on these things. Of course, I've been reading a lot of magazines. I read The Bitter Southerner. I read what do I read? Where do I do my crossword? What? Oh my god, I forgot the name of the New Yorker. I just Googled the magazine with the cartoons. So, that's devastating. Yeah, I read the New Yorker. I get that like once a week, once every 3 weeks, once every 2 weeks or something. I've also been reading, let me hide my address. I subscribe to the New York Review of Books, and these come every 2 weeks, once a month maybe. And these are really like, it's just fun to read like articles not on the internet that are just written by human beings. Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff in here about books, but also like excerpts from books or like things about books. Really been enjoying that. I also got the LA book review, and this was like all bangers. I don't know if it's usually this good. This is a what does it say? This is the 15th anniversary anthology. And so I don't know if LARB is always this good. This was like 90% really good articles. And I don't know. I wouldn't say that NYRB is like 90% good articles. They had one interview with Andy Weir that was just exhausting. And also, LARB and NYRB, they've been doing a lot of like how we're going to deal with AI. And it's like, babe, we don't need to. We don't need to read the books that people write with AI. I'm certainly not going to. We don't need to treat it as legitimate. It's gross. Come on now. But yeah, I guess like my lower book count might be because I'm reading a lot of physical media, and like these don't count as books, right? I guess. I don't know, man. It's fine. Let's get into it. I'm going to try to go without spoilers. So, the first book I read since last time is an anthology of short stories called Safe as Houses by Marie-Helene Bertino. And I there was a lot of good stuff in here. I think I am not the biggest fan of short story collections. I think it's really hard to do a short story, and it's harder even to do a bunch of short stories like combined together. I did do the thing where I just read one and then I waited a couple weeks and I read the next one. So I didn't like read them back to back. There were quite a few good ones in here. So she is also the author of a book I read 2 years ago, last year, called Beautyland, that I liked, about a woman who was an alien and she was like faxing her homeworld. And that short story was good. I will say all of these short stories felt very like overwritten. This woman is like very successful. I think she like does, all the big writers like workshops like in Iowa and stuff. And I feel like you could tell that that all of these had been workshopped. Some of them were very funny, which I think is hard to do, Overall, I would say I liked it. I would say she's talented. I would not read this again, but I would buy her future novels. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I mean, the standout ones are probably the one she turned into a novel. There's an interesting one where she takes Bob Dylan back to Thanksgiving dinner. There's one where someone's house catches on fire and like this smell follows them throughout the story that I thought was really interesting. Um, if that sounds interesting to you, follow your heart. I think I'm going to donate this. I would not read it again, but I would read more from Marie-Helene Bertino. The next book is a pre-order, which I read. I read in the same year I received it. I think the same calendar year, maybe. I'm on track. Like right now, I don't have any pre-orders that I haven't read yet. That's really exciting. I have more coming in June, but I'm reading the books I pre-order, and I'm not pre-ordering as much because I'm thinking like, well, that book will still be there. I can still get it. Anyway, please clap. I read my pre-order. I read Half His Age by Jennette McCurdy. I want to talk about the book, but then I want to talk about the discourse. So the book I thought was fine. I think Jennette McCurdy is a good writer, and I think she is only improving, and I will read the next thing that comes out. Her first book was more of a memoir, and that's what I took away from it. I really enjoyed her writing. I enjoyed her way of telling stories, and you could really see that in this book. She's really good at characters. She's really good at small details. I didn't buy the character, and so I couldn't get into the book. So this is the story of a high school student who like gets infatuated with her teacher, and statutory rape happens, and like it was fine. I don't think I got anything out of it. I will keep reading Jennette McCurdy, and I will donate this book. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. But I will say I have unfollowed like 4 separate booktubers based on their reactions to this book. There was like a lot of clickbait of like, this book disgusted me, and I just immediate unfollow. I'm sure I do clickbait without realizing it. I really try not to. Like sometimes people will call this clickbait. Like I made a video about how a movie is bad and titled it "This Movie is Bad," and they're like, that's clickbait. And it's like, well, no. It's a video where I describe why I think the movie is bad. That's not clickbait. But if you make a thumbnail that's like, and it's like disgusting, and then you talk about how much you loved the book, but the actions of the characters were disgusting, like to me, that's clickbait, because you're trying to trick people into thinking you found the book disgusting instead of finding the content of the book. Nobody cares. I mean, we all unfollow people for different reasons, and it's so fine. I just like a lot of people who I had followed for like a long time on BookTube, I was just like, what are you doing here? And then there were also people who actually found it disgusting, which like there were people who were like, this book is about a high school teacher having a relationship with a student, and that's disgusting. And so I would never read this book. Like, gross. This book shouldn't exist. And it's like, well, the book condemns that behavior. Imagine reading The Stranger and being like, that book condones murder. It's about a murder. And it's like, well, no, textually, it's very much not condoning the murder. And what do you mean? It's shocking to realize that someone is talking about a book and that they didn't understand the book. And it's also humiliating for me personally, because I'm like, have I ever done that? Have I ever been like, here's what this book is about, and completely missed it? Like, I guess books are up for interpretation and you take whatever you want out of them. But like, I mortified if I held this book up and it was like, ew, high school teachers shouldn't have sex with their students. Like, yeah, the book says that that's bad. That's the point of the book. Like, oh, that was rough. Yeah, that's that book. I thought the book was fine. And I mean, I think if I was in a different age range, like if I read that when I was 20, I might have got more out of it, because I would have been like, oh, I haven't thought about this yet, about power differences and age gaps and things. But like as a fully grown ass adult woman, I was just like, well, yeah, baby girl needs an adult in her life to slap that man, probably. Okay. So the next book I read is Glaciers, a novel by Alexis M. Smith. And I bought this purely because the cover is beautiful. I love a small book. This is a book that takes place in one day. It's about a woman, a librarian working in like Portland, Oregon, I think. And she kind of starts a relationship one day, like a one-day journey, a real Ulysses situation. People always call those Ulysses, and it's like, I wouldn't say this is a Ulysses. So overall, I don't know how to feel about this book. There were a lot of really good one-lines in it. I really liked the main character. I thought she was an interesting character. There's an element in this book, and also in the short story collection, that is about men who like joined the army and went to Iraq. And I find that difficult. I don't know. I find that a difficult topic to read about and not really empathize with. It's just like I know so many people in real life who have lived that story. And I find that often when people write about it, it doesn't feel true to life to me based on the people who had that experience in real life. I did like this though. I would definitely read another book by her, and I think I'm going to keep this. And I would recommend it to a specific type of person. Yeah. Yeah. Should I tell you who that specific type of person is? I don't know. I would recommend this to someone who wants like a real life version of a manic pixie dream girl, because that doesn't exist, right? Someone who like has these interesting quirks but is also a real character. That's what I found interesting about our main character in this book. So if you're into that, Glaciers. I liked it. Okay. The next book I read is called The Three of Us by Ore Agbaje-Williams. And I like this cover. I like the font a lot. I bought this at a used bookstore / coffee shop / bar called, I think it's called the Book Barn in Sandusky, Ohio. If you're ever at Cedar Point or Lake Erie or something, I really liked this place. The owner was really nice. They had like a coloring table. I went during the day, got a coffee, and they had like really reasonably priced used books. I think this was like $3 and $4. Yeah, screaming deal for a used book. And I really liked it. So, you know, shout out. I hope it's called the Book Barn. I'm going to look it up. There will be a picture right here. And if I was way off on what it's called, I'll do a voiceover. The place is called the Sandusky Book Bar. Okay. I do recommend it. It was cool. It was a cool place. Sorry to them. Okay, bye. This is a book about... Oh, I'm going to put it down so I don't hold it up. So The Three of Us is about a like subculture of British upper class people that I wasn't aware of, that are like Nigerian British immigrants, like third or fourth generation from Nigeria. And they're wealthy, they're successful, and they do... See, I don't know anything about England, so this was all new to me. So these Nigerian people like push, the stereotype of them that's presented in this book, they like push their kids to be super successful. They go to like the private schools and they like demand that they get like these really high paying tech careers. And like, you're only successful to me if you're the barrister that makes the most money and you also have 4 beautiful children that I can see every day. And I wasn't aware of this subculture, but this book follows 3 now adults who like are in this culture and grew up with parents like that. And so obviously they're kind of messed up because their parents have been pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. And now they're kind of adults and they're like, well, what do I do with this? And it was interesting to learn about. And I liked this book. It is a story in 3 parts told about 3 people. So each person has a version of events. And I want to compare it to it's that play by, I think it's Edward Albee, called Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, where it's a dinner and everyone's being polite and doing like hospitality conversations, but there's something in the background that like keeps kind of pushing through the surface and like it all comes to a head. That's very similar to this book, where these characters are kind of having dinner and then like you feel this huge tension the whole time that's only building. I thought it was really interesting. And yeah, I don't want to spoil it, so I don't want to say anything else, but you can kind of see how that like upbringing and having your parents determining every little step you make would kind of fuck you up as an adult. Like maybe you're like 32 and suddenly you're like, whoa, I make my own decisions. This is crazy. I don't know. I found it a really interesting like insight into this group of people I had no idea existed because I don't know anything about England. I will tell you, they talked a lot about going back to Nigeria for Christmas, and it sounded amazing. Like, let me in on Nigerian Christmas. That sounded really cool. And also the amount of drinking. British people drink so much. I will be watching like a Vlogmas, and a British lady will be like, just gonna get a cheeky drink after work, and she'll have 3 cocktails before 7 p.m. and then get dinner and then go to work the next day. That's insane. If I'm gonna have 3 cocktails, that's like a premeditated decision to ruin the next 2.5 days of my life. Like, British people drink so much. Like, this takes place again in like a evening, and they're drinking bottles and 3 people, bottles and bottles of wine. Insane amount of drinking. Oh, I liked this. I would recommend this if it sounds interesting to you, and I would read another by this author. I think it was really told really well, and because it's like the 3 different characters telling the story, I also got the sense that it was narrated by different people, which I think is hard to do. I mean, when you're writing, to like have the voice change. I don't know. I liked it. This is printed like really badly. Why do I care so much about books? I was gonna make a video about print-on-demand books, and it's just that like nobody else cares. I'm the only one that cares. Well, I know I'm not the only one, but like I want to say 1 in 20 people care about print-on-demand books and book quality, and when I complain about it with the veracity that I feel, I seem like a crazy person. I seem like a psycho. I'm like, aren't you mad about this? Look at how shitty this is. Look at it. This is not a print-on-demand book. The quality of the book itself is really good. I just like this seems like it was blown up in a way that makes the image not look great when you look at it closely. Like, it's fine. Nobody cares about this. Why am I like this? Okay. I read Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. This was my first Sally Rooney, and I read it mostly because in this book, or in this anthology of LARB, there were 2 separate, one of these was called Everyone's a Critic, Interrogating the Contemporary Critical Hatchet Job by Richard Joseph, and it was originally published in 2022, and it talked about how people are so shitty towards Sally Rooney. And previously in this book, there was a very negative review of a Sally Rooney book by a person I would say is just jealous based on reading their books. And I was thinking, why do I only hear critiques of Sally Rooney? They must be jealous. And I was like, I have a Sally Rooney book. This is the only one I have. I'm going to read it. And yeah, I would say they're just jealous. People are rude to Sally Rooney. I mean, maybe because she's like an outspoken political activist. Like, I will have to look up the story to make sure it's true, but the UK passed like an anti-free speech law that was like, if you critique Israel, that's the same as anti-Semitism. And so if you were to say, like, factually, Israel is committing a genocide in Palestine and horrendous war crimes like The Hague for the people in Israel responsible, in the UK, that's like a hate crime. And Sally Rooney from Ireland took a hard stance and was like, absolutely no, I will continue to speak out about this. And she was like, I'll lose all my money. I don't give a shit. Very impressive, like very courageous. I appreciate her doing this. Right. And I think so people are either jealous of her writing skills or they're mad at her for being an activist. I guess that is what I understand now. After having read a Sally Rooney book, which I think people say this is their least favorite, so that's the only one I read. Now I get it. I think people are just jealous of Sally Rooney. They're jealous that she writes, I think. Anyway, I don't know if any of that made sense or if any of that's going to make the video, but I will say I enjoyed this book. This is a book about two brothers that are separated by about a decade. Their father dies and they kind of attempt to repair their relationship. They interact with women in different ways and it like all comes to a head. And I liked it. I really enjoyed the writing. I really enjoyed the characters. I feel like Sally Rooney is a really descriptive writer and she does that really well with like scenes, but also her character's emotions. There was a character in this book that I would describe as awkward, but also maybe coded as like not neurotypical, I guess. And I thought she did a great job describing the way he was feeling when he was interacting with strangers or interacting with his family members and kind of his mindset as he's like over analyzing things and walking away from them. I wouldn't call this like a new favorite or anything. I'm definitely going to check out more Sally Rooney. I didn't get a lot out of the relationship in the same way, I guess, like when I watch Field of Dreams, I don't have the same feelings that often like a man who never hugged his father has. And so I also don't know if I was very satisfied with the ending. The ending, I think it was intended to feel like, oh, this is a resolution of their struggles as a family. And I was just like, this is not the end of this story. These people haven't solved it. But also, that means it was a good book, right? Because I felt that those were real people. And I felt like, oh, I would love to find out what happens to these people like 15 years after this book because I bet there were so many fights. Do you know what I mean? Overall, I really enjoyed this. I will definitely read another Sally Rooney. Which one? Should it be Normal People? People really like Normal People, right? Was that made into a movie or something? I don't know. I'm not up on that. So the next book I read last night actually is Kappa by Ryunsuke Akutagawa. And I love this cover. Also, this is New Directions, the publishing house. As someone who cares about what books look like and how they feel in your hands, 10 out of 10. I recommend this specific publisher. Yeah, they do a lot of stuff that you will see at bookstores, actually. So, I mean, people probably know about New Directions publishing, but this is a good one. Okay. I love the cover art too. So this is a book written in 1927 by like one of the most famous, I think, or at least at the time, Japanese authors. It's about a man who is climbing a mountain and falls into like the world of the Kappas, which is a mythological creature in Japan, kind of like a frog with a beak, like they're short little guys. And he lives with them, and it's a kind of Alice in Wonder. No, it's a kind of like Gulliver's Travels type story where he learns about their culture, and by explaining their culture, the author critiques his own. And the main character is telling the story from a psychiatric hospital where we learn as readers that probably this didn't happen. And I can't believe this was written nearly 100 years ago. It was great. I loved it. It was really interesting. I guess it's really interesting to read 100 years later a critique of a culture that you know nothing about. Because, like, I don't know anything about Japan in the 1920s. How interesting. I loved learning about the Kappas. And it does feel very modern. Like, they critique work-life balance and philosophy and art and economic systems and, like, abortion rights and, like, family structure and the role of men versus women in the household. It was really good, and it's really tight. I think one of the things on the back says, a novel of exquisite precision. And that's a wonderful descriptor because like it's so short and it does so much. I would really recommend reading this. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was really well done, especially the element of the psychiatric hospital. There's a moment where, because it's the psychiatrist telling this story, our main character, the narrator, kind of the narrator, the guy who went to see the Kappas, he's like, so, and then I came back and I had this business venture failure. And the story kind of stops and the psychiatrist is like, every time he starts talking about this business venture, he goes on for hours and gets angry and starts throwing things and throws a fit. So we're going to push him on to keep talking about the Kappas. And you could kind of see that like, okay, this man is in the psychiatric hospital. He's having this psychotic break and imagining these Kappas because of whatever happened in this business thing, whatever happened in his life. Like this horrible event, this business ruined, like now he's in a psychiatric hospital, and like it doesn't give you any details on that, and you're just like, huh, okay, this is the story. You're telling me 100 years ago people were having the same like work-life balance conversation? Like, that's crazy to me. It's crazy to me to imagine that in the year like 1100 there was some guy named George, and he was like a sheep herder or something, and he was going on the journey to shear the sheep, and it was going to take days because they didn't have electric razors. And he would go home and he would look at his wife and he would be like, man, is this my life? I'm just going to shear sheep every day until I die. Like, how have humans been the same for thousands of years? Except the sheep shearer would have got more days off because in the winter you couldn't work the fields, could you? But the fucking computer works in the winter, doesn't it? We work the whole time, don't we? God damn it. Yeah, those are the books I read. I liked them. I liked them fine. It was fine. It was a fine reading month. What I'm reading now, I couldn't find my copy of it. I don't know where my Elena Ferrante is, which is fine because I'm listening to the audiobook, and the narrator is not my favorite, but she's doing, I think why she was chosen is she's doing the correct Italian dialect, but also the Italian, like, would you call it proper? I don't know, in the story. So it's really nice to hear the names and the places and the food things pronounced the way they would be. So it's My Brilliant Friend, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm like 10% of the way through. I like it. I can see why people really like it. I don't know if I'll continue. It depends on how satisfying the ending of this first book is. I'm not the biggest fan of series, so we'll see, but I'm enjoying it. I'm glad I finally picked it up. And I also want to reread in June my Emily Wilson, The Odyssey, and then I'll watch the Christopher Nolan movie. I like Christopher Nolan fine. He's like, I really like Interstellar. I'm a big Batman guy, and I really like the first Batman movie. That's like a perfect movie. I love that movie. But the other ones, like, if I'm not as into the story, his movies just feel long. And I didn't watch Oppenheimer because I just wasn't interested. I don't care about that. Like, crazy. The physicist, I already know that story actually. I don't need to see it dramatized. But I really like The Odyssey. I think true of all nerds, as children, we just latched on to the great epics. And I've read this quite a few times. Well, I've read the Emily Wilson one once, but I've read different translations of The Odyssey quite a few times. And I just want to reread it before I watch the movie. So I'll finish Elena Ferrante, and I will also read this probably. And honestly, that might be the only two books I read in June. So yeah. Maybe I gotta read more weird stuff because I did really like Kappa. I don't know. Anyway, I guess. Yeah. Oh, I did a book club, Patreon live stream book club with the Left Hand of Darkness. I think it went really well. So I was gonna pick like 5 books and have a poll on my Patreon to see what book we should read next. So I have to do that too. And I'm just staring. Most of these are books I've already read though. So yeah. Okay. Well, well, that's it then. Okay. See you later. All right. Everything's solid. Okay, bye.